Behind the Built Environment, the podcast from BESA, the UK's leading trade body for the building engineering services sector.
Hello, I'm David Frise, Chief Executive of BESA. Welcome to Behind the Built Environment, the podcast where I delve into the major issues facing our industry through in-depth conversations with key industry leaders. Join us as we explore the trends, challenges and innovations shaping the future of the built environment. Today, our guest is Dan Williams. Dan is the Managing Director of Skanska UK's Building Services Division, SRW, a role he stepped into in May 2023. He rose through the ranks after joining Skanska in 2001 via a student engineer programme, progressing through senior roles in MEP engineering and operations leadership in sectors spanning healthcare, local authority, commercial offices, custodial, defence and residential projects. As MD, Dan now oversees Skanska's integrated facilities management and building services operations across the UK. Today, we'll delve into Skanska's view of the current market, the risks and opportunities ahead, and how Dan sees the industry evolving over the next 5 to 10 years. So welcome, Dan, and thank you for joining us today. We always like to kick off with, did you choose the job or did the job choose you, and how did you end up here today?
So I think it'd be fair to say it was probably a bit of both. So I think I had an interest in the construction industry. I remember doing some work experience when I was at school, where I went and joined an architect's practice for a couple of weeks. And whilst I didn't enjoy that, I chose that wasn't the right path for me. I've always been interested in construction and the end product of, being involved in major sort of landmark buildings. So from that perspective, I had an interest in the industry. I think the piece that didn't choose me is my entry point to Skanska all those years ago, back in 2001, was actually via a family contact. So I actually had the opportunity to join the SRW Student Engineer Programme, which I didn't really have a huge grasp on what building services was at the time. But for me, it was an entry point into the industry that I was keen on. And also there was a bit of trust there because obviously I had the family link and the referral that gave me that start. So a bit of both, I think, would be fair to say.
So many people come in through a family contact, don't they? But one of the great things is there's something tangible when you've finished. Whatever you've done, it's there. It's a product. We've all driven past a building and looked up at it. So I did that with the kids in the back and taken pride in that.
It'd be great to talk about, some of the things that I think we can do more in terms of appealing to new people coming into the industry. And I think whilst there are lots of attractive career choices for young people at the moment, I think few can match that buzz of being able to, as you say, drive past and I was involved in that. There's a real tangible output. And there's also the variety. You mentioned some of the sectors I worked in. I've had a very varied career, but there's many sectors I haven't been involved in. So there's lots of variety around the industry. So yeah, I think from that point of view, it absolutely keeps it fresh and keeps you energetic and wanting to come to work every day.
As you know, we like to kick off with quick fire questions, which kind of sets the agenda and sets the tone. Simple yes, no answers if you can, please. Not as easy as it always looks. So here we go. Are clients demanding more value and better outcomes than ever before?
Yes.
Is achieving net zero still a realistic goal for the built environment?
Yes.
Will digital tools fundamentally change how we manage and maintain buildings?
Yes.
Is the industry doing enough to attract the next generation of engineers and technicians?
No, but improving. Sorry to...
Told you it was more difficult than it looks, yes. And finally, if you were 18 again, would you still choose building services as a career?
Yes.
Well, that's good. That's good. On to the main questions. How does Skanska UK or SRW currently perceive the market dynamics for building services and facilities management? And what are your top priorities right now?
So I think from an MEP engineering point of view, so construction, I think it's fair to say we live in uncertain times. I mean, you only have to pick up a newspaper and you can see, we're living in times where there's probably more uncertainty in the world than there's certainly been across my career. Notwithstanding that, I think you can still see sectors with good growth potential. at the moment, particularly data centres. Again, that's quite high profile at the moment with the agreements between the UK and US around technology investment. But even without that, there was certainly a increasing activity in that sector. I think we can see similar things across healthcare. We can see a resurgence through the new hospitals program, and also in the defence sector. I think commercial office, which has always been a bedrock sector to us, we can still see activity there. We're busy currently, but it's perhaps slowing slightly. So we're on the watch out for that. But I think even with everything that's going on in the world, I still think we can see, sufficient opportunity to meet our forecasts going forward. So providing we're agile, which we focus a lot on being agile and being able to pivot into sectors with customers where we think we can meet our objectives, then I think the outlook is there's reason to be reasonably optimistic, I think.
Sure, and it's interesting because you named a couple of sectors there, and I was looking which ones do you think would be most resilient. But if we look at health and defence and energy to a degree, they're all more concerned about capacity in the market. Have we got enough people? Have we got enough capacity to do the amount of work that is either already in the stream or is coming down the line within the next, say, 5 to 10 years? Is that something you see, that capacity will become an issue?
I think we do see that. I mean, so there's probably two layers to that. One layer is our own people, our own engineering, technical teams, project management teams, commercial teams, where we can see potentially opportunities where our current nucleus of people isn't enough. We need to recruit. There is what we sometimes refer to as a war for talent. We think that's probably hotting up continually. We're certainly seeing that at the moment. It's a challenging recruitment market. So I think that's something that's certainly on our radar. In terms of the capacity in the market, in terms of our supply chain, I think we can see that as well. We work very hard with our supply chain to make sure that we closely engage with them, we look after them, we pay them fairly. They're an integral part of what we do. So, I mean, that's the way we try and position ourselves to be available to our customers, to be able to deliver and have the required capacity. But it's certainly an industry challenge. I think right from grassroots, there is a challenge to attract people to the industry, probably more so now than there has been during my career, David. And I think it's just because certain markets are so much more visible to young people now. It's in the palm of their hand in terms of household names and technology and things which spark maybe a young person's interest more than construction. And that's where I was referred to earlier. We need to work harder at that. How do we advertise all those benefits that we were talking about at the start in terms of being able to drive past the project and say to the family, I was involved in that. And I think that's where we need to connect better with attraction in terms of building that base, which ultimately will deal with the capacity issue that I think we're coming up against.
Yeah, though interestingly, if you're on Insta and TikTok, which I'm not on, but
Normally.
if you're looking at people offering careers advice, plumber seems to come up an awful lot. I think it's also that lack of understanding of what a building services engineer is and what the opportunities are within that. But why would people know? Because most of the stuff is hidden away. So do we have to reframe what the career opportunity is in building engineering services, or you said things are getting better?
I think certainly in our business, there's more emphasis on how do we explain to potentially new talent joining the business what we do, what are the opportunities. So funnily enough, we're only having the conversation yesterday with our leadership team around how we can get into schools, universities earlier, do engagement days, briefings, explain, engage with people, which we've always done to a certain extent. It's not radically new, but it's doing it more, it's doing it earlier. And I think it's also giving potential new recruits access to more senior management so they can tell the stories in terms of the career stories and actually bring it to life in terms of an opportunity. People will recognise certain roles in the construction industry, such as an architect, certain things that sort of everybody understands. But I think building services, a little bit more work's needed there just to unlock and explain to people what the opportunities are, so they can more consciously go into it knowing what their career could look like. So I think that's what I'm referring to around needing to do more. I think it's getting out there more, engaging, and just explaining what the opportunities could be. Because you're right, and I remember this I refer earlier to my story. I didn't really know coming into it, so there was an element of leap of faith there. I think what we're trying to do is demystify building services really, really early in the process, so people come in and absolutely understand.
Well, one of the problems of our industry is if you succeed, nobody's aware of what you've done because they're not hot, they're not cold. Water comes out of the tap, and that's
exactly
difficult to value till you haven't got it. But that's a whole different conversation. So, from your perspective, what are the greatest risks facing SRW? Is it economic, regulatory, or is it that workforce related?
Greatest risks. So, I think I mentioned earlier about the need for us to be agile to markets and how demand is changing in markets and sectors. So I think there's definitely something there that we need to keep on our toes. One of the things that we're getting more and more feedback from customers in a positive sense, but it's also in some respects a watch out, is how much they value real technical understanding, technical input, technical advice from a contractor at the early stages of their project. I think the industry's got a sort of gradual move over the years to more of a sort of package management approach. We've maybe lost some of that real technical prowess that can set us apart from others. So whilst at the moment I'm pleased we get some really quite positive feedback from our customers there, I think the risk is there can be dilution there over a period of time as we sort of change the way that we procure our projects and deliver our projects. So I think we've got to protect that, and I think we need to look after that because that is a key value that we bring to our customers. To lose that would lose our differentiation, and that's a risk to us because we have to always come up with ways, and it's tough to differentiate and set ourselves apart from the competition. Why should a customer buy from us? And I think there's definitely something there that we've got. We need to protect it, and it's a risk if we don't.
So you're adapting or innovating. I think you called it agile before. Are you looking at changes to the delivery models or digital tools, modular approaches perhaps, or new operational strategies that help you with this process?
Yes, I think there's a couple of things. I think off-site modular is always on the radar, particularly at early stages of a project. We talk to customers a lot about, the earlier they can engage us, the more we can maximise that. We spoke earlier about the capacity in the industry. Actually, one way to de-risk against that is to do more in terms of modularisation, prefabrication. You can reduce the amount of site hours. It has health and safety benefits. It has delivery certainty benefits. So definitely something there that we've got to continue to do more. I think customers need to support us in that in terms of trying to standardise. I think when designs become highly bespoke, it provides barriers to really maximising the efficiency of offsite. So I think there's definitely something there. I think more to the digital agenda, we've been putting in a lot of work recently around how we control and manage production on our projects, and also from a hard FM delivery perspective as well. And this is to use data far more in terms of production rates, look aheads, actuals, so that we've got a much clearer, reliable picture of where we are on the program, the amount of work that's left to do, just certainty in terms of delivery, David. So much more use of digital tools, and I think that's going to continue to progress. But we're really focused on that at the moment, and it's showing some really good output already, some really good benefits.
So that helps improve quality, but also improve productivity, presumably.
I think productivity is almost a different element to production control. I think in the first instance, it's about, are we measuring our production accurately? Do we understand our production rates? I think productivity is probably the next stage in terms of how we know where we are, we know where we're going, we're accurately monitoring it. How can we then flip that into actually how productive are we? I think is the next stage that we're sort of embarking on. But I think one of the biggest things and the biggest benefits we're already seeing, which is for our business and also for our customers, is delivery certainty. So it's not moving towards a project getting close to the end and then realising we've got a program issue in terms of delivery. This is about tracking it meticulously as we go through the project, using a far richer data set than we've ever had. And I think, that's providing some real benefit at the moment in terms of delivery certainty for us.
There's a lot of froth around AI at the moment, in particular, and as we say that the AI is not going to fit pipes and wires for you. So it's a very good trade to go in, which is another argument for that. But where do you see the most exciting opportunities? Is it smart building tech? Is it ESG-led procurement, net zero infrastructure, or is it somewhere else?
I think the smart building piece is still got traction in the market. I think there's lots of providers out there offering different types of smart building technology. We've got our own smart building offering that we call Intellect, which we've been iterating since 2020. So we created it in 2020 and it's forever evolving. It's a really, really dynamic marketplace at the moment, changes regularly. So remaining sort of current and relevant in that it is a challenge, but I think that's going to continue. I think there's going to be continued demand in that space. I think in terms of the carbon reduction piece, I think technology's got a huge part to play in there. A lot of work going on across the industry at the moment, and we're trying to lead in this perspective around carbon calculation. So in terms of when we value a project, we might price it as part of a tender, actually understand the carbon impact as well, treat it like another currency basically, and then be able to give a customer advice on, well, if you change this, the carbon impact is this, or change that, the carbon. So to actually bring that into the conversation at a much earlier stage, be able to make design decisions that actually improve the carbon footprint efficiency of the building. Technology is playing a big part for us there as well. And I can only see that keep going because the zero carbon agenda, it is not going anywhere. So we've got to continue to lean into technology as to how it can help us.
You've spoken in the past about delivering greater customer value. So what does that mean in practical terms for your teams and the client?
Probably a couple of examples on that, David. I mean, where we deliver projects with our construction business, it's what we refer to as sort of internal partnership. I think we deliver greater value there because what we do there for our customers is essentially de-risk that interface between main contractor and MEP contractor. They see one business, a coordinated approach that takes away some of critical risks that a construction project would have in terms of interface between construction elements and the heart and lungs of the building being the mechanical and electrical services. So I think in that space, we can bring greater value to our customers. I'd go back to that technical expertise piece as well, because as I mentioned earlier, I think there is this general, I don't think it's conscious, but I think it's there around moving more towards from a mechanical engineering approach to also a package management as contractors look to de-risk the way they procure projects and deliver projects. There's something there that we're working very hard not to lose, because our customers do really value our technical expertise, our experience, the innovative solutions that we can bring to their projects. And that's in our people. So I like to think we're very strong on that. And I think that's something we hold very dear and we have to protect. But I think it's in that pocket that we can bring extra value to our customers right from the start of the project. We often say to our customers, the earlier we can be engaged, the more value we can bring in terms of giving the advice, giving that contractor viewpoint, whether it's value engineering, design decisions, deliverability advice, program advice. That's where we can really bring value. If we can get involved in the project as early as possible.
I mean, people talk a lot about early engagement being really important, but the fact you've got an FM arm is also surely important in the operational, the long term, the whole life cost of the building. Do you pull those two things together if you're using the smart tech to manage the building? Is it really important that you have some skin in the game and you're there for the long term?
Yeah, no, I think absolutely. I mean, we've got a number of projects that we built many years ago, which we still maintain to this day. Yeah, we're interested in long-lasting customer relationships. The one-off customers will always be behind those customers that we've been on a journey with in a long-term relationship. So I think without a doubt, when we engage with customers, we will try and present to them on the whole life cycle of a project, not only delivery, but looking after it for them in the future. And of course, when you've got that vested interest, knowing that you will be caring for the building for many years to come. You have to maintain it. I think you're ultra conscious then when you're constructing it to make sure that you're able to do that in a, an efficient way going forward. And I think there's value for a customer in that, to actually really have a vested interest in that post-construction period, which is of course far longer than the construction period itself. So it's really important. So plenty of examples, I think, where we've been able to do that. And I think, to your original question, I think delivered better value to our customers.
So looking sort of 5 years ahead, do you see evolution, shall we say, or revolution in terms of delivery capability and customer expectations? Will it look very similar, or will it be different, do you think?
I think it'll be different, but I think it iterates gradually. I think customers are rightly becoming more demanding, both in terms of the ESG agenda. I think certainty of delivery. I think the commercial attributes of a project will always be important. So I don't see anything radical, but I think there is a pressure on tangible continued improvement across all of those fronts.
I was going to ask you about sustainability goals and digital transformation changing how you operate. And what does this mean for how buildings are managed over time? But have we answered that already?
I think we've covered a lot.
I think we probably have.
I think we have. Yeah, no, I think we have.
I think you answer the questions too well. So something I asked you right at the beginning. If you were starting out in the industry today, and I think you're a great example of somebody who's really, done a great thing in industry. You're still, dare I say, still relatively young. But if you were starting again today, would you be a designer, an installer, a QS, or something entirely different within the industry?
So I think maybe potentially predictable. I'd probably stick to my contractor roots. I think I don't think you can miss that buzz, and we mentioned it at the start about really being involved in the construction and the delivery of a project, whatever part you play, whether it's on the engineering side, construction, or I just think there is you leave a lasting legacy. To your point around, you drive past it, it's there. It's a symbol of your hard work and efforts, and I think that's difficult to sort of match. I think if you're at the front of that in terms of the delivery capacity contractor side, I think I've always got a buzz from that, and I think that's something that would bring me into contracting again. You also get, of course, which I've had only recently, the first project you've worked on come back round to the tender list because someone's decided it's too old now and it needs to be demolished. So I think that's quite a sobering moment. You mentioned I'm still fairly young, but I've had that experience. So you become connected to the buildings, I think. These things come up and it triggers your memory and you remember being there and the experiences you got. And I think that's really valuable.
Yeah. But I bet when you looked at it, you went, actually, we did a good job then.
Well, absolutely. But to see it come around and someone talk about it, it's quite surreal. It's like, oh yeah, they're demolishing that now. So, well, no, they can't, because it has been 25 years. So yeah, it's probably right that it's up there. So these are the sorts of things you remember, right? And they're, I could tell you about every project I've been on and remember some of the finer details. And I think it's those experiences that I'd happily go through again and experience them again.
I was going to ask you, would you do it all again? I think I know the answer to that. But what I will ask you is this: I believe very firmly that most people come to work in our sector really wanting to do a good job, and we get in the way of that happening to a large degree through unproductive work or poor planning or poor contracts or whatever. Is that something you see too? And what would be the answer?
I think there's always a risk that you try and sometimes oversolve a problem, and that can lead into maybe some unnecessary bureaucracy process and things, and it can sort of distract away from what's really important, which is ultimately delivering for a customer high quality safely. So I think it's one of those things that the industry needs to keep on the watch out for. We talk a lot about efficiency, how digital can help, which is absolutely the forefront of ours and our competition's minds. But we have to be careful that there isn't something else dragging us back where we're just adding things which aren't necessarily adding value. So I think it's a risk. We need to stay alive to it.
Great. Well, thank you, Dan. I'm going to now try and summarise, which I hope is fairly straightforward. You kind of chose the career halfway there, halfway in, but family connection, as with me, as with so many people, was the final kind of locking key. We're looking at a position where there is work out there if you are agile enough to be in enough sectors. So I guess it's a balanced portfolio of work and not committed to one sector. We are doing more, but we need to do even more to attract young talent into the industry and retain it, I guess, is another issue. And be open to innovation through digitization, through offsite, through AI, through other new technologies that are coming through. We need to be alive to the requirements for ESG, sustainability, still those haven't gone away, and providing customers with great value, not just through the construction phase, but longer term. And all that's based on solid technical expertise and knowledge that you cannot, there's no shortcut to that. You need to know what you're doing.
Absolutely. Good summary.
Thank you. One last question before I say thank you. And I know the answer to this too, I think. Optimistic or pessimistic about the future?
Optimistic. Got to be optimistic.
I would
Can
have
be optimistic.
put my mortgage on that, as they say. So Dan Williams, MD of SRW, thank you very much.
Thank you, David.
And now on to the podcast news. BESA has launched its latest SCEB toolkit to help firms prove competence under the Building Safety Act. Focused on industrial and commercial ventilation hygiene, it sets out exactly what good looks like for SCEB. That's skills, knowledge, experience and behaviours. An unfortunate acronym SCEB, but that's where we are. You can download it free today on the BESA website. Join over 350 building engineering services professionals at the BESA annual conference at the Brewery, London on the 16th of October. Don't miss keynotes from May Winfield on AI and the legal risk and Susanna Nicol OBE, Chief Executive of Build UK on transforming construction. Book now via the BESA website before it is sold out. On the evening of the 16th, we have our BESA Industry Awards at the Brewery, where we will celebrate the best in innovation, sustainability and leadership. And there are only a few tickets remaining. Secure your place and join the celebration. On the 6th of November, join BESA's Ventilate Day exchange ahead of World Ventilation Day on the 8th of November. From tackling mould in homes to smarter commercial systems, it's all about collaboration and healthier buildings. Secure your place, your free place, via the BESA website. This November and December, BESA will host a series of member meetings with a technical focus. The BESA technical team will share updates on key industry guidance, including the DW145 revision, new technical bulletin TB59 on fire damper fixings, and progress towards the Heat Network Technical Assurance Scheme and HIU test regime. Secure your post now via the BESA website. So thank you for tuning in to Behind the Built Environment. If you enjoyed this episode, like, share and subscribe on your favourite podcast provider. And don't forget to leave us a review. It really helps us reach more people across the industry. For more in-depth conversations with industry leaders and the latest updates from BESA, stay connected and keep listening. Until next time, I'm David Frise, and this has been Behind the Built Environment. Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to Behind the Built Environment podcast from BESA. If you like what you heard today, then please follow and rate us on your favourite podcast app. Come and join us over on LinkedIn, BESA Group, and carry on the conversation. And if you want to find out more about joining the BESA community, then please visit thebesa.com to start your journey with us today.